Tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation, a mystery altercation emerges. And not with the guys that took him to the island on the boat. Does this change things? We cannot ignore it. Nolan's mother is investigated. Why?
The CETO call was completely enhanced, and these people just want to believe what they want to hear. And that's exactly what they're doing. So it's just crazy to me that people have tried to twist this and twist the audio. And all of a sudden we can hear Nolan yelling in the background, screaming, we're screaming about how he's dead. That's just a complete lie.
Keep your eyes on this one and Warren, okay? Watch right after the first question.
What is your thoughts on that phone call to CETO? Some people have gone out and some people have gone out and...
Did y'all see it? Did you all see them literally lock eyes? Warren wasn't ready for him to break eye contact yet. He wanted to say something with his eyes.
Where is Nolan's phone?
If you just murdered your best friend on an island, the dumbest thing you could do would be to call the Coast Guard.
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
Somebody saw something, somebody knows something, and they are not coughing it up. And we're going to keep on until they do.
The first thing that immediately stands out in this interview is Nolan's phone. Not just where it was, but who had it and what happened to it afterward. Because according to the people speaking here, that phone could potentially answer some of the biggest questions surrounding Nolan's final hours. And this is where the story starts getting complicated. Tatum tells Nancy that Nolan's family had not cooperated in handing over the phone, but when Nancy pushes him on how he knows that, his answer becomes much less direct. And that's the distinction I want you to keep in mind. Prepared to cooperate is not the same as refuse to cooperate. At this point, we're hearing competing interpretations of what happened to the phone, not a clear answer.
Officer Tatum, where is Nolan's phone? Do authorities have it?
Well, from my understanding, authorities do not have it, and the family have not been cooperating with authorities to give the phone over. According to the testimony or written statement from the lawyer that represents the family, the Nolan Wells family, he had made mention that he's prepared to cooperate, but they have not cooperated yet, which is very interesting to me. You want to find out what happened to your son. You would think you will be doing everything you can to cooperate. I can't judge her. I don't know what's in their mind, but it just seems to be very off-putting for them not to at least give the phone over and do what exactly they told the world they were going to do. And that is to allow a forensic extraction of his phone. Therefore, the world can see if there is things that have been deleted. I think Tyler Cox is very clear about what he's saying, that the boys had nothing to do with it. So if there's anything missing from the phone, it had nothing to do with them. Now, I'll add this. When you look at what Christine said.
Brandon, whoa, bit. I'm going to go right back to what you're saying, but you're saying a lot, and I want to address each thing so we don't leave anything out. Number one, you just stated that, basically. Correct me, you can paraphrase this any way you want to. It looks really bad for Nolan's family not to hand over the phone. Do you have any independent knowledge they have not handed over the phone?
According to their lawyer that wrote a statement, and the statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, but that was as of the 11th. Therefore, they have not cooperated. Tyler Cox has made mention that he don't believe they cooperated whatsoever. He don't believe they cooperated whatsoever as well. So
extrapolating. You're taking their words, Tatum, that their words that they're prepared to cooperate to mean they haven't handed over the phone. Isn't that true?
I'm putting everything together, right? We have Tyler Cox that's coming out and saying that he has no indication whatsoever they've cooperated. The family has not come out and said that there's any findings. And then also the attorney that represents the family is saying that we haven't sent or gave the phone over, but we're willing to. And that was as of the 11th.
No,
so it appears that there's no indication.
Hold on. Brandon, you may very well be a lot smarter than me, but I can hear, okay? The statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, I guess from Crump. That does
I'm not
not
sure
mean
if it was,
we have not handed over the phone, but we will.
well, Well, Nancy, when you put it all, you have to put the totality of circumstance together. I'm not there to be in the room with the investigators to determine, but I'm just going off of what knowledge we have and that's been given to us that's available. And what Tyler Cox is saying, and I'm taking him at his word, he's saying that there's no indication that they've cooperated. The lawyers that represent the family is saying we're prepared, but they did not say that they've cooperated whatsoever. So I'm looking at the statements that are produced, and all of the statements indicate that there has not been a cooperation with the phone being extracted from investigators. Therefore, there is no true determination that things were missing from the phone. Well, I mean, we have no other. We have no other. We have nothing else to go off of.
Prepared to cooperate.
And that's where I think we need to slow down for a moment. Because if you listen carefully to what Tatum just said, the evidence being presented here doesn't actually establish that Nolan's family refused to hand over the phone. What we have is a lawyer saying they were prepared to cooperate. That's different from knowing whether the phone was actually handed over, whether investigators requested it, or whether that request was refused. And that distinction matters, because the phone becomes one of the most important pieces of this entire investigation.
Having physical access to the phone is where the databases exist that will have the truth on deletion. So you really need to get a full file system extraction of his phone as quickly as possible. So if it's not handed over to authorities now, it needs to be, because this was over a month ago now.
Do you have to have the phone to do the extraction? What about the cloud?
Cloud data is different, and there's a lot of information there. There could be unique information in the cloud that's been removed from the phone, if anything was removed, but it's best to have both cloud and the phone to paint the entire pattern of behavior and to see the truth.
So now we have two things to keep separate. We don't know from this interview exactly where Nolan's phone was at that point, but we do know why investigators would want it. Because if something was deleted, the phone could potentially help establish what was there and what happened to it. And that brings us to the next question. If the phone could help answer questions about Nolan's final hours, what about the place where those final hours began?
Has the boat been searched by cadaver dogs and scent dogs?
The boat, from my understanding, has not been searched, and the cadaver dogs were made available for Benjamin Crump to utilize them to do a search on the boat. They refused.
Crump is not supposed to use the dogs.
Well, there is no reason to search
everything on Crump.
Listen, Nancy, there's no reason if there's not any evidence of a murder, there's no reason for them to use the cadaver dog. That's how this works.
True.
There's none of these individuals they do not have any expectation that there was any murder that occurred. It's just other people are putting that out to the world. The police department is not investigating the murder. These boys are not suspects.
I agree, they're not suspects. They're not persons of interest. They're not suspects. They haven't been charged. But
to believe after interviewing 60 people that he was ever on the boat.
The search of the Triton, the Triton.
It's not
his boat.
Ordering it. He's not ordering it. The cadaver dogs were made available if he wanted to. No, they made themselves, availed themselves to him and said, would you like us to search the boat for you?
You just said that about Nolan Wells' mom. Now you said, I almost hate to do this to you, almost. Tatum, you just said, when Crump says we're available and ready, you meant, well, that's no, they haven't handed over the boat. But now you're saying, the friends say our boat's available and ready. And I'm not going to tear you a new one because the law enforcement is the one that needs to go and search the boat.
And this is where things get complicated. Tatum says the boat was available and that cadaver dogs were made available as well. But Nancy raises an important distinction. Making the boat available isn't the same as actually conducting a forensic search. And according to this interview, we still don't have confirmation that the boat was searched. That doesn't prove anything happened there, but Nolan was on that boat, and he never came back. So before we move on, there's one question we need answered. What actually happened on that boat.
Where we had left off, Warren had already called Miss Christine, and then they somehow ended up at Jax's grandparents' house. That's where they all stayed that weekend, and so that's why Nolan's keys were over there. They had to have been at the grandparents' house, who mysteriously never showed up during any of these confrontations. Somehow the phone had gone from the party that they were all at to Jax's place, and then Warren left after a phone call to Morgan. According to them, 10 to 15 people showed up and just walked into Jax's house and demanded the phone. Wyatt gave the address in which the boat was at. They all start migrating over there. Then Morgan and Wyatt and another friend are tracking their 360s and seeing that they're going over to Wyatt's house. Then they call 911 to tell them that the police are on the way to his house. Then they're searching the boat, and then they come back to Jax's house around 1 o'clock in the morning, according to him. Mind you, that's when they explain to the police about their friend being missing. And so then the report says at 1:38 in the morning, the Jackson County Sheriff's Office say that they spoke to several of the friends that were on the vessel with Nolan, saying that he was in the company of an unknown female. But Morgan, Jax, and Warren all claimed that they did not travel to the island on the same boat as Nolan. So who did they talk to? Because it sounds to me like they had told the police that they were on the same boat as him. Keeping in mind that this is what Warren told Miss Christine.
Named Katie. And so then it turned into, Katie is also missing. No one can find her. And the explanation of no one knows this Katie, like we've never met her.
And Tristan said this.
I was talking on my other buddy's phone, talking to Warren. He was dialing Coast Guard because he hung up the phone and was like, hey, this is them, bye, and hung up the phone. And that was the last time I talked to him.
Mind you, Tristan is friends with Katie. They are mutuals. I have confirmed this. So now that we've got that timeline fucking straight, let's back up to something that Warren said during this interview.
But if you're motivated enough to do it, yeah. Like, I made a phone call to my mom, and I had to call her like 8 times before she picked up because either her service was bad, because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through.
Do y'all see that? Let me play it again slower for you.
Either her service was bad, because she was on the back side of the aisle on the south side, or my service was bad, and it was just hard to get through.
Oh no. Not only did Warren confirm that his mom was on the south side of the island, but Warren himself said that if you're motivated enough, you can call somebody. I tried calling my mom 8 times. Yet this is what he said last time.
A little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine.
So which is it? Did you call your mom with ease, or did you try to call her 8 times because you were motivated to get in touch with her? But Warren wasn't the only one to slip up, because listen.
And he's on the phone with Cito, and he's trying to get them on the phone. And as he stated in the moment, he's like, Cito's just asking all these dumb questions. I can't figure out what's going on. And so finally hangs up. And after the trim to the motor started to work again. So they manually trim it down by the buttons on the motor, trimmed it down, and some electronics started to come back on. And they got the boat to crank over, and they're like, all right, untie us.
So first off, Jax just proved that the boys put the phone on mute during the call with Cito. Because I've listened to the entire 8-minute call, and at no point does they ever say anything about them asking all these stupid questions. Then he said after they hung up on the Cito, that's when it started working again, and they said, okay, untie us, implying that it had been tied up to the other boat the entire time. But we see in this video that they are hauling the line back in right here as he's on the phone. See, you can see right here where the line is being pulled in from across the way where the boat is stationed. Meaning he had already hung up with Cito at that point, and he had to have been on the phone with someone else. And what we...
But there's a problem with that explanation. If the boat had only become operational after the Cito call, then the timing of the tow line matters, because the footage appears to show that line being pulled in while the call was still happening. So now we're left with 2 versions of the same moment, and they don't appear to line up.
What we actually want to hear about is the multiple stops that were made before ending up back at the grandparents' house before they even took the boat to the boat dock. We want you guys to explain how the Cito was canceled by the grandfather on the captain's private line before you guys had even hung up with Cito.
But the problems with the timeline don't stop with the boat, because according to the story being given that night, Nolan wasn't missing at all. He had supposedly stayed behind on the island after meeting a woman named Katie, and that explanation creates another problem.
Then this early story that the entire case is built off of is introduced.
He said, oh no, well, you know, when we went to the island, there was a girl named Katie that he met and he had decided to stay behind. And I said, what? Because we know our child.
That same story is spread to authorities.
Life 360 says that he's on land, and he was like, well, no, I mean, you know, well, we have his phone. And I'm like, wait, what?
The phone was kept on land and the water search was delayed. And the most important event happens next.
But before getting off the phone with Warren, he was like, hey, I know some people at Coast Guard. I said, okay. He's like, I'm gonna call Coast Guard, you call DMR.
He convinces the mom for him to take the call that only she should have made.
I'm glad I called the Coast Guard. I'm glad I made the first contact within all of this. I'm glad I was the first one that called Christine Wells that night.
And the son of the judge speaks to the only entity that can act beyond local authority.
He got back and he called the Coast Guard. Does that sound like a guilty man to you?
He tells the mom, don't worry, we'll find him.
You're telling me, this is coming from Warren, don't worry about it, we're gonna find him, it's gonna be okay. Don't tell me not to worry, this is my child.
And probably tells the Coast Guard that same story he's been telling.
You know, I assumed, you know, Nolan's just, you know, we had been drinking all day and like, you know, that he's just sleeping somewhere and, you know, that he's okay.
What he says on that phone leads them not to assist. Then she gets the runaround from authorities.
The officer basically says, again, this is out of our jurisdiction. And at that point, I'm like, my God, who am I supposed to talk to?
And as the family is searching for answers all night long.
There were no boats on the water that night.
That night, the search for Nolan doesn't begin, and they just go to bed.
But even after all of that, one question still remains. What actually happened to Nolan? Because at this point, even the cause of death wasn't settled.
Isn't that true? We don't have a cause of death yet.
That has been made public, no. They said last week.
So
hang on.
Tatum,
they said last week that the autopsy report is complete, which means they have tox, histo, and they've probably got a cause of death.
Okay, but we don't have the cause of death.
We don't. It has not been released yet.
And the second examiner said undetermined.
Yeah, because he didn't have any organs to examine.
And that word matters. Undetermined. It means the evidence hadn't established exactly how Nolan died. So before anyone can call this an accident or something more, we have to look at what the forensic evidence actually tells us.
It could be that he did drown, but that does not rule out foul play. It doesn't rule it in, it doesn't rule it out. Explain.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, drowning, just so you understand, if somebody, say for instance, has a head injury, right, and they fall into a body of water, all right, that can lead to drowning, right? Because they might still be unconscious but capable of breathing. And of course, if you're in a water environment, you're going to be taking on water. I've worked cases where water has actually been weaponized as a means to take someone's life. But I've also worked, Nancy, a lot of cases involving accidental drownings where people fall over the side of boats. I've even had homeless guys that have passed out face down in mud puddles and have drowned. You never can predict, you know, how any of this is going to happen. All we can do in the morgue, the medical legal community, is assess what we see at that moment in time. When we're trying to look at the lungs, we're trying to look actually at the inner ear. That's one of the areas that we go to with drowning. And we try to assess the brain as well, because you can have the brain begin to swell in these certain circumstances. So there is a huge recipe that goes into this when you're trying to do a fatal diagnosis here. You know, when you're trying to come up and, you know, and make this assessment, you want to do it necessarily. I think it's best. You try to do this independent of maybe what The police are saying what friends are saying. You objectively look at the science of what's before you, and then after that, you go back in and factor in some of the circumstantial information.
But an undetermined cause of death doesn't answer the bigger question. It only tells us that the evidence couldn't establish exactly how Nolan died. So now we have to go back to the timeline and the people who were with him before he disappeared.
Thought they were MMA guys. So that was his exact words, and he was an eyewitness. He said that they left in a hurry.
The MMA guys left in a hurry?
They left in a hurry after the altercation. He didn't say if they came back or if they just moved to another part of the island.
That was flying by, or no? That was
No. When he was talking about the boat flying by, that was after we had gotten the information that Warren had made the call and the boat was sinking and all of that. And it was kind of like, did that happen or did it not happen? And he was able to say, I did see a boat and it was going extremely fast. He said it flew past them. And by the time that they made it up to where that boat was, it was stalled out. It appeared to be taking on water.
Oh, it's almost like they got in a fight. Nolan got his neck broken by one of the MMA guys, and they were trying to get him help. So they were flying past, and then their boat ended up started taking on water. And then that's when we get the audio call and can hear everything that's going on.
But that account doesn't stand alone. Brandon says Javon left with his own phone, and Javon himself later called that account a lie.
5 other people that also left their phones on the boat, and we had to wait at the boat launch for them to come and pick them up, including Javon. I mean, Javon left his phone on our boat.
So now we have 2 completely different versions of what happened after the altercation. And that's the problem with this story. The accounts don't simply leave gaps, sometimes they directly contradict each other. And if we're going to figure out what happened to Nolan, we have to stop asking which story sounds better and start asking which story the evidence can actually support.